Good morning, folks. Let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to take a guess and say we probably don't have a quorum yet. I'm sure we can verify that, but we do have quite a full agenda today. So I want to go ahead and get us moving right off the bat. So can we go ahead and well, let me go ahead and give my dog and pony speech here. Rachel, you verified that we are live and we're ready to go. Is that correct?
We're recording the meeting and streaming live on YouTube.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Welcome to Metro Plan Orlando CAC meeting. I'd like to call the meeting to order. My name is Dan Stevens. I'll be chairing the meeting today, and this meeting is fully in person. So all committee members are asked to be present in the Metro Plan Orlando boardroom. We still have virtual participation for the public. Now I'll ask committee members to please speak clearly and use your microphones so those joining us virtually can hear. Now it's time to say the Pledge of Allegiance today. I'd ask my Vice Chair, Ms. Council, to lead us in the pledge, if you will, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Okay, there are two public comment points in the meeting. Members of the public who are here in person and want to make a comment should submit a speaker card to Miss Rachel Frederick in the back. Those attending on Zoom will want to speak can use the raise hand feature on the Zoom screen. At the December Metro Plan Orlando board meeting, former Chair Jeffrey Campbell informed the board of our leadership change for 2024. I will begin representing CAC on the board at the February 14th meeting. As I suggested, we have a very full agenda today, so I hope we can move forward as efficiently as possible. I pointed to myself because I love to talk, so I'm going to just kind of hold my comments as much as possible. Remember, if you do have questions that don't get answered during the meeting, Ms. Marianne Horn, sitting to my left, will follow up the presenters and get those answered. As my first meeting as your chair, I only want to say that I want to stress punctuality. I heard from, I met with Marianne Horn and Vice Chair Council just before this meeting, suggested to me that we've got a lot of important things to cover in the upcoming months. And so with that, we need to be mindful of our time, limit our comments to those that are actually pertinent to the discussion at hand. We want to be respectful to our presenters. I've often seen where a presenter comes and we just run out of time, and that's rude, to say the least. And so, like I said, I want to stress punctuality. All other things will fall in order. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Ms. Marianne Horn, Metro Plan Orlando staff, who will do our agenda review, please.
Thank you, Chairman Stevens. A hearty welcome to our new leadership, to you and to Vice Chair Council. We're looking forward to a great and a very busy year. Thanks to our committee members and all of you who are attending both in the room and online. We are glad that you're here. We currently need a quorum of 14 members in the room to conduct votes. As always, it is important to RSVP for meetings so that we can prepare. There are still Zoom and YouTube options available for the public. We are currently recruiting new members to fill 3 Metro Plan Orlando appointee seats on this committee, replacing Ms. Buttery, Mr. Colon, and filling an existing vacancy that we had. The application deadline is Friday of this week, and we hope to bring the new members on at our April meeting. At the same time, we had some appointees from jurisdictions step off, and we are waiting for new members to be named there. We have been in touch with the jurisdiction, so we may have a lot of new folks beginning soon, which is great. We always want to recognize the commitment that it takes to be part of this committee. So as we begin the new year, thank you for all you do. It is our custom at the January meeting to also recognize members who had perfect attendance in the past year, some of whom are not here today, so they won't get recognized next year, but that's okay. More people, different people. But if you would give a short round of applause to Jeffrey Campbell, Teresa Mott, Tom O'Hanlon, Brenley Peters, Jeff Pigram, and Judy Pizzo.
Right.
Thank you. Thank you to everybody, and particularly thank you to these folks. I would like to bring your attention to the flyers at your places for a car fit event in St. Cloud on February 7th. This is a partnership with FDOT, the Turnpike, and Safe Mobility for Life, which is a state organization, as well as the city of St. Cloud. It's a great way for older drivers to get some practical advice and assistance in making sure that their vehicles meet their needs. This is very good. If you have an older driver in your life, you might encourage them to participate. Also, on the info table, we have ITS Florida calendars. If you're still needing a calendar for home or work, or just want to see what the ITS is up to, you are welcome to take one of those. At this point, I would like to turn it over to Mr. Mike Wilson for the safety moment. Mike?
Thank you, Mary Ann. Good morning, everyone. Our safety moment this month is going to look at the move over law. That's what FDOT is focusing on this month in their safety calendar. And so there was a recent change just implemented January 1st. All the vehicles in blue that you see on the slide of emergency vehicles, sanitation, utility, wrecker and towing, and bridge and maintenance, those were all covered under the Florida move over law, but it was now broadened to basically any disabled vehicle that's just displaying warning lights or flares, or if there are just people visibly, around the vehicle, outside the vehicle, that those all fall in under the move over law. I don't have a bunch of data for you this time around. I'll spare you all of that. And I did look at it though. I mean, often these are classified as pedestrian crashes because it's a person not in a vehicle. But it's kind of hard to tease out of our pedestrian data which of those are really applicable to the move over law. What I will say also is that what this does not apply to yet are other pedestrians, let's say walking along a roadway, or bicyclists traveling along the edge of the roadway. That doesn't mean we can't still do the right thing and treat them in the same way we would someone who's, say, working on their car on the shoulder. So what the required actions are with the move over law, first off, is that your first priority, if you can, is to vacate the lane, right? And then if you cannot do that, to reduce your speed to 20 miles per hour below the posted speed. And that's irrespective of what type of road. This applies to all roads. It's not limited to freeways, other limited access highways. And a point I want to make is that the earlier you can vacate the lane, the earlier the drivers behind you can do so as well. So as soon as you see that situation up ahead, try to get over, and that will just improve the situation for everyone. That concludes my safety moment for this morning. Be happy to take any questions.
Any questions for Mike?
So Tom over there?
Tom.
Well, Mike, as you probably know, if you're letting your car drive and there's a bicyclist on the side of the road, it automatically moves over to give clearance to the bicycle, even though, quote unquote, you're not supposed to do that yet. So good safety move.
Mm-hmm.
Questions, comments? Thank you very much, Mike.
Right.
Appreciate your time. No changes to the printed agenda. Do want to call your attention to, is that?
Go ahead.
Oh,
You're doing fine.
Sorry, I'm jumping right ahead, aren't I? Yeah, I'm excited. So,
You're fine.
call your attention to the Central Florida Expressway Authority's project development and environmental, the PD&E tracking info, which was referenced in the general info tab of your agenda packets. Let me see here. It's on the table at your places. With that, turn it back over to Rachel Frederick to call the roll.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If you can please remember to turn your microphone on and then off once you've responded. Battler. Bobinger.
Here.
Bolton,
Here.
Bosley,
Present.
Campbell, Sintron Medina, Coleman,
Here.
Council,
Here.
Davis, El Badri, Gus, Lopez,
Here.
Mott, Mueller, Niesman,
Here.
O'Hanlon,
Here.
Pereira, Peters,
Here.
Pigram,
Present.
Pizzo,
Present.
Salas,
Here.
Shaw, Sabila, Stevens,
Present.
Webster, White. Mr. Chair, that concludes the roll call. We do not have a quorum.
Okay, thank you very much, Rachel. At this time, I'd like to, because we do have a busy schedule, I'd like to see if we can skip ahead of the action items and hear some of our presenters. Looking at our menu of choices. Actually, I don't
They're
see
all set.
Alex. Mr. Trogger, are you in the back there? I do see you. Are you ready to present, sir, by chance? Please, if you could let's see here.
Well, actually, the first thing up is the sunshine refresher.
Well, and I do realize there's a sunshine refresher, but might we skip that until we actually have more people
You
with that?
can.
I just made a judgment call as all, so.
Okay.
If we could actually, if we could have Alex up here first, I think that would probably benefit the committee. Thank you.
Skip to the one that I was gonna do last, so my tempo's off a little bit, that's why. All right.
You guys
so-
better be taking notes, because thank you.
Certainly. All right, good morning, everyone. I think we're missing one from quorum.
Correct.
So we'll be on the lookout for that straggler. But this is an informational presentation, really a preview of our Unified Planning Work Program. That's a long term, but it's really a federal code for Metro Plan Orlando's annual operating budget. So the budget looks at salary, other organizational costs, and our consultant services. Should I, want me to continue?
Please.
Or do we want to go with the printed agenda? Okay. With that again, so this is our annual operating budget. Every 2 years, it's a 2-year budget, which I'll talk more about in a second. So every 2 years, those who have been with us for some time, we'll be going through a preview, and then at our board's March meeting, they'll be taking action. So we're taking the item through the document through preview at this point. And then your next cycle, you'll have an action item recommendation for approval with an actual budget for your review. This time around, I'm just going to give a little background and kind of give you the lay of the land of the budget. But as I mentioned before, we update our UPWP annually, but federal law and state requirements require that we develop a two-year budget. It's a living budget like all, and we go back the second year and update accordingly. We're in the second year of our current budget. So come this budget here is for July 1st, 2024 through June of 2026. So that being said, it includes really all of our work from salary, really all of the expenses that we have, but it also includes our planning studies, the timeline of those, who's going to be conducting those. And that's really the core requirement from federal law, is identifying those planning activities that are going to utilize federal transportation planning funds. A little bit on schedule. Like I said, every other year we go through this exact process. January, February of that every other year, we work with DOT and our internal staff to develop the UPWP. By March 13th, based on the FDOT's MPO handbook, by March 13th, we have to submit that to FDOT. They then give it a review and concurrence. They provide comments, and we make any updates as needed. And by April 15th, And then by April 15th, we have to, we get those comments back. And then by May 8th is when our board takes final approval for the budget to enter into or to take place at the July 1st. So with that being said, the budget's organized really into these 9 areas. Administrative, pretty straightforward. That's kind of how we convene our advisory committee meetings and other overhead. We have a public outreach budget, which focuses on Marianne and our other public participation process. Transportation improvement program, pretty straightforward. That's our tip. You see Jason developing that with with DOT's work program staff. 130 is our metropolitan transportation plan. That's our long range transportation plan. So work under there supports a lot of what you're going to be hearing about over the next couple of years and more from Taylor today. 140 is our regional activity. So this is our work outside of the 3-county area as we're working with MPOs and other counties, our neighboring partners, as well as with the state and other statewide groups. That falls under the regional activity section. Eric and Lara's work, transportation systems management and operations, making the most of the existing system, falls under that TISMO task. You'll see data development and management we use, and you hear a lot about the data that we use. Some of it we make and develop ourselves. Others, it's an analytical process. So a lot of that work, consultant services and staff time falls into that task. 170 is a catch-all. So these are things that we don't identify specifically within the budget, but we know things come up, studies need to happen, work needs to be addressed. So whether that's that work is done upon the decision of our executive director. 180 is another catch-all, multimodal systems planning. This also includes all of our complete streets planning. So if it's not long-range plan or if it's not the tip, a lot of our time in consultants spending is within our multimodal systems planning task. Then we also have a task for links planning activities. That's our pass-through task. So Metro Plan Orlando, as the grant recipient for the consolidated planning grant, receives funds, and we pass those funds as well as some FTA, as well as some transportation disadvantage funds through our budget into Links's annual budget. I mentioned a core element of the UPWP is providing, really identifying the projects and the schedules, anticipated tasks for the work that we're going to be conducting over the next 2 years. Some of that work is completing what we already started within this budget. So we're going to be wrapping up the regional TISMO strategic plan. That's some work that Eric Hill has going on, working with some of our surrounding MPO partners to build strong TISMO planning programs like we have here in our 3-county area. We just kicked off an electric vehicle charging readiness study. That work is going to take, you'll be hearing more about that in the really just kicked off last month. So it's starting at the end of this budget and going to be completed within next budget. You're going to be hearing a lot about our 2050 Metropolitan Transportation Plan. This budget, like every third UPWP, has a really strong MTP budget given the federal requirements for completing that plan every 5 years. Couple of these other items are ones that you're going to see every year. That's our annual traffic signal retiming. So we bring in some of our federal transportation funds, and we conduct signal retiming on the state highway system as well as on some of our off-system minor arterials. And then we also conduct before and after studies. So we do the retiming, we work with the local government partners, traffic engineers, and then we go back and conduct a study to make sure, what were the benefits of that expenditure and looking at a return on investment as well as some other qualitative indicators. We're going to continue our our critical sidewalk bundle feasibility analyses. Our long range plan or MTP identified construction cost feasible projects. But to build those, before you can build the sidewalks or design them, you have to make sure they're feasible, make sure your costs are right. So we're using that step to work with our local partners. Adriana from my team leads that effort. So we're going to be continuing that moving forward so we can start chipping away at the many sidewalk gaps that we have within our region. We're also going to be working with our local partners and continuing developing corridor concept studies, planning feasibility studies for our high priority projects. We've conducted a few in the past. One was in 10th Street in St. Cloud, which was after that study, it actually received a RAISE grant. So we're seeing kind of return on investment through us developing some of those local priorities. We also recently wrapped up the West Orange Trail extension and the Rock Springs Road study. And we've also did the Corinne, which is our probably most notable corridor study that we've worked on. So that's continuing along standing tradition of conducting those planning studies to advance projects into design and construction. We're going to continue our commercial data acquisition. We have a long history of using different commercial data products, Streetlight, AirSage, to inform our decision-making process, add value to our local government's planning processes as well. Eric's going to be kicking off a travel demand management plan. So this is really looking at kind of multimodal, getting education and other ways of getting people to move outside of their vehicle, if at all possible. And something else that's going to be kicking off here shortly is our public opinion survey, what we're going to call our 2024 public opinion survey. We do that work every 2 years. So that works in our current budget. We're going to be wrapped up by June. But you'll see in our next UPWP that survey for calendar year 26 as well. So those are the projects that we're going to be completing as it relates to our revenues. You'll see something notable in current year. That's that column to the left there, fiscal 23-24. You'll see a pretty significant surge in our federal funds. You're going to see that because we did receive the almost $5 million for that Safe Streets and Roads for All grant. So that money is showing up in our current year. A little bit of it's going to be rolling forward to next fiscal year, but the majority of those funds will be spent within this actual budget. About 80% of that grant is going to be expended by June 30th. So our typical budget between $8 and $9 million. That's, kind of looking back, it's about the same year to year. I mentioned before, we do pass funds through to links via our budget. This is a mechanism that allows DOT to take our funds and put them into a different financial number for links to utilize. We have the portion at the very top there is our PL funds. Those are our planning funds that we receive. We pass $350,000 over to links, and then they conduct different planning studies, and Miles and the strategic planning team from links lead those efforts. We also pass through some transit disadvantage funds for the TD planning that links conducts in managing the Access Links program. But also something notable based on our board's TMA or federal funding policy. We also pass through $7 million of construction funds to links from MetroPlan Orlando, and that allows links to support their transit asset management program. So they're purchasing buses, bus stops, other eligible capital expenses. So on any given year, we're passing through about $7.5 million to links to support their transit planning and also capital programs. So with that was just kind of a quick preview of the UPWP. At your meeting next month, you'll actually have a draft version of that document. In the meantime, if you want to go to our website and check out the current year UPWP, the next year is going to look pretty much the same, with only really significant change is going to be those different projects, the different consultant services that we're going to be working on over the next 24 months. So with that, I'll take any questions. But next month, like I said, you'll have a lot more to chew on.
Thank you, Chair. Alex, you mentioned part of the work is look back retrospectives on projects for work that was planned and then implemented, and looking at the results of those. Is there one that you could sometime this year kind of highlight for us, kind of a look back, a retrospective with the committee? Kind of, this is a project that we learned a lot from, whether it was behavior of the pedestrians, behavior of the drivers, or the physical improvements that were not made. I think that'd be really neat to showcase.
Yeah, the specific to what I had mentioned, that was the before and after study was specific to our traffic signal retiming. Eric does present that every year when he does the before and after. So I know he covered that, I think, September of last year, but we can come back with that for sure and let you guys know how things shook out.
Yeah, I guess I'm thinking beyond traffic signal timing. So even the physical, like OBT, all the hawk signals that are on that kind of south side of I-4, like, okay, did that work, or is it working better or worse than what was predicted? I guess something beyond just traffic signals, but physical changes, like we've been talking about Corinne Drive forever. I know.
Got to build it first, and then we can.
Right. And so it's one of those, all the planning that went into that. What did we learn, and how have the projects actually panned out that we're taking lessons learned to future projects? I think that would be really cool to do.
Certainly. I know Mike Wilson from my team, and we also have this in budget. We're continuing our bicycle and pedestrian count program. A lot of the counts that we are conducting, we have locations that we collect every year. But we also collect before and after. So if we know a side path or a trail or something's going in, we like to where we can actually truly quantitatively see kind of the latent demand. We are tracking that. So a lot of it, we're doing the pre-now. So, we have to build and then we can kind of go back and see the change. So a lot of the projects that we're tracking and doing the data collection for that the non-signal retiming, we're doing some of the early data collection that we'll need.
Very good. Thank you. I see Mr. O'Hanlon, you have a question?
Real quick, when you were mentioning the traffic light studies that we do. Had an experience this Sunday. We did not go to church. We had to go to Maitland. And when we caught 4 traffic lights in a row, my wife was incensed. She just couldn't believe, like, what happened to these traffic lights. And I told her that it's turned off on Sunday mornings. So you can hit all of the traffic lights. And you really need to turn it around and just count your blessings that for most of the week, the system is turned on so that you virtually always just get green lights almost no matter where you go. So that was an experience of my wife never going out on Sunday morning other than the church, seeing what benefit there is to this traffic light retiming. So thank you.
And I guess last question, Miss Alice?
I always have an ITS question, but when it comes to thinking about this whole concept of, timing, I know I've mentioned this before, and you said that you guys were working on that or thinking about getting this whole automated system eventually for the retiming to be more of a systematic thing instead of an ad hoc piece by piece measure. But that was kind of just a reminder. I don't know if that, progress on that has happened or if there's like a timeline for all that fun time. And then the second part is just, I wanted to know if there's going to be a budget breakdown, like percentage per your 9 areas, just kind of a general ballpark, because obviously if we have these desires and wants to move towards something that's more effective, we need to know how much it's going to take to acquire it. And then we have to, of course, put that in the budget to make sure we aim for something that's already kind of in existence somewhere else.
So some signal, maybe a few questions there, unpack them. As it relates to traffic signalization, the signal retiming, from my understanding, will always be required because you have to actually change what's in the box. Even the signal systems that are highly coordinated, automated, probably not using the proper terms there, they still do require a traffic engineer to go actually and understand turning movements, volumes, changes, seasonality changes, time of day changes. So there's always going to be a manual step for, a human being, a specialized, traffic engineer to kind of go in and do those signal assignments. Volumes change, a lot of things change. So while some of the corridors are set up to be based on certain times of day, certain conditions, you'll get a certain type of signalization. Going back on corridors, we work with the partners to identify the corridors that aren't working so well, or where there are changes, to make sure that we can go back in there and do the necessary changes. To your second question about the UPWP, I'll talk to our finance director about that. No guarantees. I know we don't typically provide that to the board as a function of percentage, but the document, if you refer to the UPWP table 2, you will see a task by task breakout based on the different line items.
That it? Alex, thank you so much for coming out of order, and helping us out with our agenda today. So I appreciate your, and thank you, Rachel, for your quick work keeping us on track here.
Mr.
Now
Chair, we do have a quorum now.
we do here. Yeah, I did see that. So thank you so much. Now that we have a quorum, we're going to shift gears again. We're going to hear public comments, first of all, on the action items. Do we have any people online who want to speak on any of these items? If so, please raise your hands or use the raise hands function on your screen, or press *9 on your phone keypad. When we call your name, the host will unmute your microphone. You'll see a button pop up that says the host wants to unmute you. Accept that prompt and activate your microphone. We ask that you provide your name and address for the record. Please hold your comments to 2 minutes. Any comments at this time?
Mr. Chair, we do not have any hands raised online.
Thank you, Lisa. Do we have any people present in the boardroom today who wish to comment on action items?
Mr. Chair, I've received no comments.
Understood. Thank you very much. I would point out that it is now 10 o'clock. We're 32 minutes into our meeting and we only had one presentation. So with that being said, we've still got quite a ways to go. So as you're asking questions of our presenters, just, do the math. We need to be quick about this. Marianne pointed out to me, we're an advisory committee. A lot of these actions will go forward with or without our comments. So if we want to have a say in this, we need to hear all of these presentations. So just, log that. So now we have 6 items today. First, the approval of the minutes from the October 25th meeting. These were in your packets from the last meeting and no corrections were noted, but we discovered that they were never actually voted on for approval. So we can do that now. We'll ask for a motion and a second and then open the floor for discussion. Members making the second of the motion, please state your name for the record. So do I hear a motion?
So move.
Mr. Peters makes the motion.
Second.
And Mr. Bobinger makes the second. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carries officially this time. So now we're looking to approve the CAC meeting minutes for the December 6th, 2023 meeting. That's in tab 1 of your agenda packets. Have a motion to approve the December minutes.
I make a motion to approve the December 6th meeting.
Mr. Coleman makes that motion. Do I have a second?
I second it. Judy Pizzo.
Judy Piso makes a second. Any discussion? This is a voice vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Hey, we're moving ahead now. Next, considering a request for the annual resupport of FDOT's targets for safety. Supplemental information is provided in tab 2. Again, we will ask Mr. Alex Trauger, Metro Plan Orlando, provide the information. Mr. Trauger, you have the floor, sir.
Sounds good. So every year, talk about recurring presentations and actions. Every year, every January at your CAC meeting, every February at our board meeting. Since 2018, this has been an action item, and there's been unanimous approval for this action item to be 0 for all of our federal safety performance measures. So the federal, what they call performance-based planning started really 2017, 2018 as part of MAP 21. It was continued into the FAST Act, further continued into the Infrastructure and Jobs Act, or the bipartisan infrastructure law. So the federal highway is continuing performance-based planning and using transportation performance measures. Today's action is specific to the safety targets, which are referred to as Performance Measure 1. As I mentioned, we've been a target revision 0 for all these safety performance measures since 2018. There are a total of, I believe, what we got? The number and rate. So those are 2 different performance measures. They want the number of fatalities, rate of fatalities, number of serious injuries, and rate of serious injuries. The rates look at compare vehicle miles traveled. So that's a way to normalize how much exposure is out on the facilities, but also the number of non-motorized fatalities and serious injuries. So we're looking at those vulnerable users, pedestrians and cyclists specifically for those last 2 performance measures. As I mentioned, the statewide target is 0 for all federal performance measures. Statewide, fatalities, things are trending down as Mike and team have presented. Within our MPO area, things are not trending in the right direction, especially as it relates to fatalities. We're seeing some improvements on some of the serious injuries and kind of non-motorized indicators as well, but as specific to fatalities, we are seeing an uptick, which is obviously not in the direction we want to go. And that's why we're spending so much time talking to you guys about Vision 0 and the many action plans that we have going on throughout our region right now. So again, you'll be hearing a lot more about Vision 0, about kind of our action plan over the next few months. But this action is really specific to us satisfying a federal requirement and state requirement, which is to approve and adopt a safety target for each of these performance measures listed on this slide. As noted in tab 2, you'll see the board resolution, which is really what our board is approving, which is that they're agreeing to support FDOT and their safety, agreeing to FDOT statewide target, and then we will plan and support them in their safety planning efforts. So with that, we are requesting your approval and support of our target or Vision Zero safety performance targets as presented today.
Thank you, Alex. Any questions?
Second motion.
There is a motion by Daniel Lopez.
Melissa Council second.
There you go. You guys are jumping ahead. Any discussion at all on this? I don't see any cards up. So all in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Thank you. What would I do without her? Motion passes. And give me just a second here, find where I'm at. Next, asked to recommend the 2045 Metro Plan, Metropolitan Transportation Plan to be modified or amended to include projects related to moving Florida forward. Supporting materials are provided in tab 3. Ms. Catalina Chacon, thank you, of DOT, and Ms. Taylor Laurent of Metro Plan will provide the information. You are recognized.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Catalina Chacon with the Florida Department of Transportation. We're here to provide an update on what we've been doing, where are we going, and as well to address the amendment, the MTP amendment. You have the slides? Okay, sorry. Thank you. All right, our agenda today, we're going to see that FDOT form a new team, and we're going to be managing, delivering the specific projects that were part of the Moving Florida Forward. You're going to see that in our presentation. We're going to show you those projects, the status of where we are, what we've been doing in terms of industry and stakeholder outreach, our procurement plans for the construction projects, as well as CEI and advertisement. And then we'll take questions. So as I mentioned, FDOT sent a new team. Our team is called the Corridors Program Office. And we have 3 out of the 5 members here today. Keith Slater is our director. He could not be here. There's only 5 of us, so we're spread very thin. So we're dividing and conquering as we speak. Cheryl Willits, she is our admin, and we cannot do anything without her. So we're very thankful for everything she does to support us when we're out doing everything we need to do. We want to also get a new communications program manager. It's going to be our PIO. We want this PIO person to be obviously overseeing right now when we're in design, once we go to construction in conjunction with our contractor. But we also want this PIO person to be our liaison with our stakeholders so that they can help us. We need to, stay back in the office, do work, make sure the construction is going well. So that's the vision for this PIO person. So we're looking for this person. If you have any recommendations, let us know. We have Tracy Hood, who is here in attendance. He is our project controls program manager, and our titles are a little differently. You'll see later in the agenda, we're using some new contracting methods, procurement methods. And so our titles align with that type of procurement. He's in charge of what Katie and I are not in charge of. That's what we've been saying is the easiest way to explain it. But he's in charge of work programs, so our funding, our utilities, risk assessments, and everything else, schedule, and everything else. Katie Sherrod is here with me. And she is our construction program manager. So pretty self-explanatory. She's going to be leading the construction of this projects. And then myself, Catalina Chacon, pre-construction program manager. And that in essence is the design phase, design right away, our NEPA clearances and whatnot. We also wanted to mention Carrie Nelson. She is from District 1. And let me back up a little bit. So all of us in this new team, we come from different districts. I am originally from District 5 here in the Central Florida area. Katie and Keith are from District 1 in Bartow. And then Tracy is from District 7 in Tampa. And so Carrie, we're taking all the help that we can. Carrie is from District 1, and she's been wonderful helping us with getting stuff done. We plan to have additional staff, about 10 or so FDOT members. We're working through current legislative session to get those positions so that we can be fully staffed. So the main reason why this office was formed is you'll see later in my slides, we are straddling districts. So we have District 5, we have District 1, and we have the Florida Turnpike. So the vision was we want to streamline, make sure everything is consistent, and have constant communication with all of the districts so we can manage these projects as we move forward. So this slide shows the projects that we'll be overseeing and managing. The numbers match the numbers that were out of the Moving Florida Forward. They don't mean anything. So project number 12 is in essence the I-4 all within Osceola County from Champions Gate to Osceola Parkway. Project 13 is the Poinciana Parkway Extension Connector Project. So that's the one that creates an interchange with I-4 and connects to County Road 532. And then number 16 is I-4 in Polk County. We go from just west of US 27 to Champions Gate. This is just an overall project map. I don't know if you noticed, but there are, basically we go all limits. So from west of 27 on the top left corner, all the way to Osceola Parkway. And there's some area beyond Osceola Parkway in orange here, right there. And that's just transitioning back to existing I-4. We are, and Katie will get into this later in the presentation, but as I mentioned, as part of legislative session last year, we were also approved the use of a new procurement method for construction. And all it means is just, we are going to build this. We're going to build what we said we're going to build, but it's just a different way to do it. And it gives us more flexibility in terms of getting a contractor on board and therefore starting our construction phase while we can still finalize the design with a contractor on board and do other tasks that with previous procurement methods we couldn't do. So it's just gonna make things go faster. Katie's gonna get into that, but so we've been doing a lot of stakeholder outreach, industry outreach, and we are going to be coming probably back with updates. And one of the main updates is we're going to segment this out in terms of construction contracts. Project scope, as I mentioned, we're going to build what we said we're going to build. So the top typical section is the proposed typical section that is going to be within Osceola County. So we're adding the 2 express lanes in each direction. We're preserving a rail corridor in the median, reconstructing I-4, full reconstruction of I-4. And then the bottom typical section is the one in Orange County. So that's as you head east towards, past Osceola Parkway towards downtown Orlando, we need to connect those express lanes that we're building in Osceola County to the ones that are right now in I-4 Ultimate to make sure that the system is going to work. Otherwise, the express lanes are not going to we're not going to see any benefits in terms of congestion relief. So we're working currently with District 5 Central Office to identify the funds to build this express lane in the eastbound direction. We are currently building the one in the westbound direction as we speak in Orange County. Okay, at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Katie, and then we'll take your questions. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'll update you on the current project status of where we are today. As Catalina had touched on earlier, when we were first moving forward and putting this team together, the plan was to move forward with 2-phase design build contracts, which is that new procurement method. Essentially, it's a design build contract, but selecting a contracting team on qualifications-based selection instead of low bid. So with that, what you may see from us when we come back is right now what you have on the screen are financial project IDs that you're probably very familiar with already, as they're related to the Beyond the Ultimate project, which I'm sure most of you are very familiar with. And when we come back, what you may see is that, like Catalina touched on, the scope of work remains the same, the limits of the work remain the same. But as we look at the best way for contracting methods moving forward and how to get these built, we may need to add in some additional financial project IDs and transfer some of those things around. So we may be coming back in the future to go over that. Right now in Osceola County, where we are, is for the Poinciana Parkway Extension Connector. The EA FONSI was approved on November 15th of 2023, so fairly recently. And we do have funds to move into the design now of that project. We will need a design reevaluation for the typical section in Osceola County. That is basically because we're going from a rigid barrier separation to the delineator separation, as you saw on the previous typical section. We are waiting on that design reevaluation until we have our contractor on board in case there are any other tweaks that we need to take care of. We can wrap that all up in one there. We do have the majority of our funding in place. We are currently working with central office on getting some TIFIA funds to fill in the gap of that remaining construction funding that we do need. But the majority of the funding is in place through the Moving Florida Forward initiative. The LRTP will be amended here. That's why we're here today, to request that amendment to include these projects. And then tip-stip amendments follow. And right-of-way is currently being acquired. I-4 in Polk County, we have this here just for your situational awareness, but we do have planned procurement of the work in Polk County. That those projects will be adjacent, obviously, to the ones in Osceola. And we're running about a year behind the Osceola on the schedule for that as it stands today. So current project status, where we are now is we're currently working on developing the RFQs for the phase design build contracts. The first that we have to move forward with it will be what is proposed as it is today is the 2-phase design builds in Osceola County, one of which will include I-4 from just east of the Champions Gate area to just east of the 429 interchange, including all of the 429 interchange work and planning for that work and how the Poinciana Parkway Extension Connector will then connect to I-4 and across I-4. So we are currently developing those. The other is the remaining portion in Osceola County. So 2 contracts are being planned. As already mentioned, we are working on NEPA reevaluation, and we'll have that set to go as soon as we finalize that design. Traffic documentation is underway. We are working with FHWA. We meet with them regularly, at least once a month, sometimes more, to go over all of our major project requirements, making sure that we have all of those things in place and submitting our SEP 14 request to move forward with the phase design build procurement. Public engagement has begun. We are actively looking for a PIO person who will also be your main point of contact once we get that person on board. And we are looking to have an industry forum on the Corridors program, all of the projects that we plan to have within this program, and that is tentatively scheduled now for the end of February. So industry and stakeholder outreach, we have been traveling really all over Florida and also out of state to meet with consultants and contractors and local agencies to get all of their feedback on how do they feel is the best way to move forward with these projects, where we're minimizing impact to the traveling public. We are making sure that we're meeting stakeholder expectations, and we're also relieving congestion in the fastest manner possible, because we all know we need this yesterday. So we have met with, it says 30 plus here, but I think we're actually almost up to 40 now of individual one-on-one meetings that we have had. So in, I believe it was October timeframe, we did put out an initial video. It was a YouTube video discussing the 2-phase design build approaches. There will be a subsequent video or information coming out that then talks about how we're going to kind of pivot away from that plan and divide it into a little bit of smaller projects that provide us more flexibility and opportunity in how we move forward with the contracting methods. That is coming out very soon. We did attend several construction conferences and got the feedback there as well. And the reason why we are changing that plan is based on all of the feedback that we have received. So just kind of touched on this already for you here. We're just going to change from the 2-phase design build contracts to multiple contracts through various procurement methods. The first 2 projects that we are moving forward with are phase design build planned projects. We do continue at this point in time to move forward with those. That is the most aggressive, fast way to get someone on board. Just to kind of put it in perspective for you, on a traditional design build project that the department procures, takes us about 11 months to get through the procurement period in total. We can select a contractor through a phase design build procurement in about 4 months. So we plan to have the first contractor under contract and on board within 2024. The multiple procurement methods, we are going to range them now. The total program within the program that we're managing for Moving Florida Forward, the Corridors program, is about $3.5 billion total for all of the work. So we did show you the 3 Moving Florida Forward projects, but there are companion projects that go with that, whether it's an interchange that connects to it that was in our regular work program. So those are all kind of tied together there. And so we're looking to kind of split some of that work up in what makes the most sense. Quickly touching on our CEI scope and advertisement, in order to streamline delivery and ensure consistency throughout the program, as well as we overlap with the different districts with 1, 5, and Turnpike, we want to make sure that we're having one consistent approach in how we're managing our projects. So we are going to be acquiring a program-wide CEI contract. It is project specific, so they will be directly providing construction engineering services for each individual project, but they will not start that work until those projects come online. That project is currently in planned advertisement, and we are looking forward to hitting official advertisement in beginning of March, and hopefully moving towards execution at the end of May. So with that, that wraps up our overview from both a design status and construction perspective, and we welcome any questions.
Thank you very much. And were you also going to present as part of this?
I'll be requesting your action following your questions about their presentation.
Got it. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. So thank you, ladies. I do see some tents up. I at this juncture, just so you know, it's hard for me to see a lot of your table tents. So if you actually have a comment, make sure that I can actually see your table tent there. Let's start with Mr. Pegram, please.
Thank you for this presentation. It's very, very exciting to see these much needed projects move forward. Just 2 questions for clarification. Right now in Osceola County near Celebration, the right of way widens because there was going to be a high-speed rail station in that location. Is that being preserved, or is that in case Sunshine Corridor commuter service is brought to Celebration, or is that being constricted?
You're talking about this little piece right here?
Yes.
Yeah, that's being preserved right now.
Okay.
We're having monthly coordination meetings with Brightline. At one point with the high-speed rail, that was proposed to be a station.
Yep.
We're preserving that as for now, just to be safe, but continuous coordination with Brightline.
And then my second would, as an Orange County resident, we're essentially going to have a gap in 2 express lanes in Osceola County, 2 express lanes at Kirkman. And there's kind of that express lane siphon in the interim until that area is funded. So from Osceola Parkway to Kirkman, what is the timing for funding the construction of that piece into the 2030s?
So the thought for the system to work as a whole and to see a good realization in congestion, we are planning to open the entire system, the entire express lanes, once the whole thing is connected. And this project is going to be a 10-year program. I mean, we're talking about full reconstruction of about 8-10 miles of I-4 while we maintain traffic open to public. So it is going to take some time, but the goal, so we do have flexibility in, and we're, as we speak, we're aggressively working to get those funds in place to be able to get it open all at once.
Thank you.
I wanted to add a follow-up to your Brightline question as well, in one of the duties that Tracy gets to do, because it's not something that Catalina and I handle, but that coordination that we are having with Brightline, we understand the importance and the impacts to the traveling public. And so we are actively working with them to ensure that we can try and plan ahead. And if there's anything that we can do within our projects to put portions of their work that they would need in place, so that way when they are ready to build and come through, it reduces the impact to the public and they can just kind of build within that median there and go. We are working on that as well.
Very good. Mr. O'Hanlon.
We're so excited that you're here. We're even more excited to see how excited you are. A lot of us have been here for quite a while and we understand what you're trying to accomplish. Some of us have not. Okay? Feedback. When you go in front of the public, you need to tell them the express lanes end. This section is going to extend those express lanes to this point, and then this point is going to extend 4 express lanes to this point. There's people in this room that have no idea what you just talked about. Okay? We're going to have continuous express lanes. You guys use so much jargon that probably 2/3 of everybody in here have no idea what you're talking about. Okay? I've been here over 20 years. Okay? Even I didn't understand some of your jargon. okay? This is so important to the public. This is huge for the public. You just can't have 90%, and this public I'm talking, 90% of them have no idea what you're even talking about. So you're doing a phenomenal job. You're super excited, but you got to get the terminology down to what the people you're talking to are going to understand.
Yeah, I was gonna say, first of all, Mr. O'Hanlon.
Acronyms next time.
Would you like a job as a PIO?
Yeah. Actually, you don't have to worry about this because you've got your car to make those kind of decisions. So, but in all seriousness, we actually did discuss this today, and we've got things in the works to help on that front. So thank you for your comment, and we're working for that too. So nice presentation there, ladies. I don't think I see anybody else between Mr. O'Hanlon and Mr. Peters.
That's great, especially with the numbers coming in. That is so great. This is so exciting to see this. I-4 westbound and eastbound from 27 to, I mean, that's a parking lot. So it's really like that. Question. What did you learn from I-4 Ultimate going forward with the DB for this section, for this thinking?
I think, and that's what we've been doing. We want to make sure that when we advertise the construction contracts, we're going to have participation and competition. We need to make sure that we're using the taxpayer dollars in a very responsible way. We're fortunate in the sense that some of the members that worked on I-4 Ultimate are also part of our team members right now. So it comes into the execution of the work, and that's why we're being very strategic and taking our time, talking to contractors, making sure that we are going to have the workforce that needs to be here to build this as fast as we can. So we are talking with the team that we're build I-4 Ultimate and making sure we are not going to make the mistakes that, or, learning those lessons that we can learn and get better every day. So I don't know if you have.
There were so many accidents with the I-4 Ultimate and lawsuits and, so much of that going on. So that was the purpose of my question.
Thank you very much, Mr. Peters. Actually, before, let's go ahead, Ms. Council, you.
Ponciana, you say, Kissimmee, it's our area here of several of us that are traveling. This morning alone, I think it took us from Champions Gate across about an hour. Go ahead, Ashley. An hour and about hour and 25 minutes, I would say, because there was a car on fire somewhere. But all of the construction that we've gone through in the past couple of years, most of us that are in that area are like, when are we going to see, the final, end result, which is we want traffic to flow. There are certain points that I don't know how much you're going to get the community involved, but there's several ways of taking this information into the community that maybe it might be a little bit helpful for either the PIO or whatever it is that you need. But this is really important to some of us, and this is the reasons why we even sit on these boards, is because of what you're mentioning. So what Mr. O'Hanlon's saying, to bring it down, the verbiage, so that we can really understand, absolutely. So I want to thank you for your presentation and also for Mr. O'Hanlon's comment.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. That was awesome. That was a really good presentation. Chairman, I would like to get something correct. First, the action item of this is to vote to amend the tip to release the funds to help speed this project up. Is that correct?
That is actually, I think that's
what the
next.
that's
right.
right. That's the presentation.
We're starting
Correct.
with the long range plan request, and then it'll go into Jason with the tip amendment request.
Okay, so I don't really have a lot of questions, but I just have comments. Okay, I am a fellow Osceolian, I guess, if that's how you want to call it. But I also been here long enough to see the I-4 Ultimate plan, right? And this is such a big deal for us to fix these areas of this road. It just seems aggressive, and we're going kind of fast, right? you guys, I like your team. You guys seem very professional. But from my understanding, you guys come from different districts, right? District 1, 5, and 7, right? It seems like you guys put this team together pretty fast to make this happen. I just would like to make sure on behalf of all the Osceolians that we take our time going through this to make sure that we don't have a lot of setbacks and it doesn't make a nightmare of a situation even more of a nightmare. That's my comment. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you for your comment. I would like to assure you that although we come from different districts, we have worked together for many years in the past. And so my previous position within District 1 was the interstate program engineer. And so Catalina and I have worked along the I-4 corridor for quite some time now. Tracy and I have worked together in the past, and Tracy has been on part of the Bright Line discussions as well as I have for many years now. So we are very familiar with each other. We have worked with each other for a very long time. And this team was hand-selected by our executive management in Tallahassee to execute this and make this happen because of the districts that we represent and our knowledge already within the corridor. Thank you.
Tracy, wanna add something?
Yeah, just for the record, Tracy Hood. I think another thing maybe to tag on to that is we aren't starting the projects from scratch. All of these projects were in development well along the way. All we're doing is providing a mechanism to get them delivered.
Okay.
Right? So it's not like we're trying to figure out what lane goes where. And a lot of really smart people have been working on that for a really long time. We're just here to make sure it gets on the ground.
Makes sense.
And then if I can go back to your question about the problems or the issues with Ultimate, that's part of the reason we changed to the new procurement method. That was just a standard design build project. You get a hard bid right up front. They have to live with that cost. They don't have a lot of plans. They don't know a lot about what's going on. So everybody has to live within it. So you start off almost right off in a confrontational environment. What their phase design builds, you select a contractor, they develop the plans. Once they get the plans developed, then they give us a hard bid cost. We have what's called an ICE, a independent cost estimator. They validate that that's a good deal, what they're proposing. If it is, we move on. If it's not, we take what they've developed and put it out to bid. So we're confident in getting a good price and a good design with that. So that's one of the things that we've done to try to eliminate some of the issues that came up so we don't end up with 10 years of construction and 20 years of lawsuits.
Great. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Ms. Salas, I see you put down your tent or whatever. You don't have a.
Clarified, I know they're still in process of trying to communicate to people, so I was just trying to make sure that, we did get them for being, engineers.
Thank you. And I do see,
Thank you. No, I appreciate that feedback, and we're gonna take feedback. Appreciate it.
I've actually got two more questions, comments, and we've got less than an hour, so we need to make it quick. Go ahead, Ms. Gus.
I'll be fast. I think I just wanted to share that TSMO and the Metro Plan Board has done a pretty good job with the Vision Zero and bringing people down to the community. And I think that doing more things like that from FDOT will be very, very important. So wherever you guys have those extra funds for outreach or volunteers for outreach, we have definitely people on this board who will do those things and partner up with you. But I think that that's something that will really highlight that, because these are people who are here every day. And I am afraid of how much traffic will change during this construction process, seeing as it's already, as council said, or I think Mr. Peter said, it's a parking lot. And that was something that was going on in the Point Siena side. They were afraid of that construction and that becoming a parking lot. So yeah, just, we just really want the outreach to bring that down. So that was it.
Thank you for your comment, and community engagement is extremely important to us. But to add to that, another item that is important to this project and as well to the communities is workforce development. So we have plans in place too to help grow members of the community who are interested in actively participating in these projects.
Wonderful. Thank you. Ms. Mott.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Fabulous presentation, ladies. Really appreciate that. Wanted to say kudos to you and your team. That was great work. In regards to the amount of outreach that you all put in, great ground game. I love the diversity and all the different methods that you use to reach out to the public and find out what their input was. So I appreciate that. You mentioned that you'd be releasing a report that you put out, that you changed the timeline due to the amount of feedback you got. Can you expand for us, please? When is the projected time frame as to when you may have a report? And then secondly, will that report be presented to us as a committee?
Thank you for your comment or your question.
My pleasure.
I'm not sure that it's an actual report.
Okay.
What will come is we have put together a planned procurement strategy for these projects that's currently being evaluated by our executive leadership in Tallahassee. When they approve that plan, we will have kind of procurement schedules aligned with that. And once that is in place, that will be distributed for everyone's awareness. So yes, you will get that information. And we hinted that will probably be back.
We're gonna be back
Because it
regardless.
will add additional financial IDs, which require us to come back for amendments. So we just want to be clear that the overall scope and limits remain the same. But as we're breaking that apart and that is finalized, we'll come back and present that information.
Thank you kindly. Thank you kindly. That concludes my question, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. And thank you very much, ladies. Taylor, did you want to kind of wrap this all up and let us know what we're going to be voting on?
Right. So as I've been saying, kind of from the peanut gallery, here's the next step. We've learned about these projects, and thank you very much to our FDOT team for walking us through what these look like and kind of what we're moving forward with. The requested action for the MTP is to amend the 2045 plan to include these 3 projects. So for planning consistency with the efforts that are ongoing that we just learned about. So with the addition of these projects and the additional funding through the Moving Florida Forward initiative, there are no impacts to existing project cost feasibility within the 2045 plan itself. So our requested suggested motion is to recommend approval of the proposed revisions to the 2045 MTP as they've been presented today.
Actually, I saw.
That's why we went through our
Let me
questions at the beginning.
I saw Mr. Peters first, and then I guess Miss Council seconded. So you got that back there, Rachel? Yeah, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Buddy, I'll tell you what, everybody jumped on that one. So
Thank
you very much. Motion passes. I appreciate your flexibility as we've been modifying our agenda here. Next, consider recommending approval of an amendment to the Transportation Improvement Program. Information's in tab 4. Mr. Jason Sartorio, Metro Plan Orlando, provide information. Mr. Sartorio, you have the floor, sir.
Morning, Chairman and committee members. My name is Jason Sartorio. This morning, I have 3 tip amendments for you, and additional information regarding those amendments is located in tab 4 of your agendas. The first amendment is the Apopka Trail Connections Project. This is a trail gap project, which will add product development and engineering, product development and environmental and design phases into fiscal year 2024 funding. And this project is funded through a legislative appropriation awarded to the city of Apopka. Our second and third amendments come as a result of the Moving Florida initiative in Osceola County, which FDOT just presented on. These 2 amendments advance design right away and design build funding into fiscal year 2024 in order to achieve consistency with the FDOT 5-year work program. As I mentioned earlier, you have some additional information regarding these amendments located in tab 4 of your agendas. That being said, unless there are any questions, we are asking for your recommendation of approval of the amendments. Thank you.
So moved.
That was a great presentation.
I second it.
Okay, any discussion? I think we're short and sweet. There you go. I heard it was Mr. O'Hanlon made the motion. Judy have made the second, correct? All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. I appreciate it, Mrs. Sartoro. Lastly, asked to recommend approval of the new urban area boundary information's in tab 5. Again, Mr. Alex Trauger of Metro Plan provide information. And Mr. Trauger, you have the floor, sir.
Right, diversity of presentations today. So on a very separate topic, one that we only take up every 10 years is adjusting our urban area boundary. I know I provided a presentation at your last meeting that spoke to our method, our coordination with our local government partners, which I'll kind of go through here. I think what's important to note is that we met individually, specifically with our transportation local government partners, as well as each of our county and major partners, comprehensive planning and growth management staff. So this, and that ensures that the decisions that this board is making is consistent to the maximum extent feasible with our local government comprehensive plans. We wanted to make sure that while this is a federal requirement, a lot of grace is provided to local governments to make sure that it really complies and doesn't impact negatively those local plans. So over the course of the process, we received a lot of feedback from our partners. We were able to incorporate about 90% of that feedback. And that's really what we'll be taking action on today. I know this is in your agenda packets, long memo, which kind of comment by comment response and how we made the adjustments. We also met with FDOT and have gotten their initial concurrence on the changes. But I think what's important to note here before we take action is this boundary, our urbanized area boundary, is really specific to Metro Plan Orlando transportation funds, as well as in the event of a natural disaster, FEMA reimbursements for urban area funds. So if you're within the urban area, you pursue urban area funds. If you're outside of an urban area, you go into a different rural funding category. There's really no suburban. It's either urban and rural. And that's why during this adjustment process, we bring in those suburban areas that don't meet the federal requirements through the adjustment process. So again, bringing in the new area doesn't bring any new money. So just because we added population or land mass to our urbanized area, it doesn't change the formulas. Those are already set based on the census numbers. And most important, especially to our local government partners, this boundary, this designation doesn't supersede or usurp any of their comprehensive plan or service provisions. So sorry about the noise from the other suite back there, but hopefully it's not too distracting. But again, we receive feedback. Our local government partners are comfortable. The changes are really from their feedback. We've gotten concurrence from FDOT based on the edits, the adjustments that we've made. And with that, we are requesting your approval today of the proposed adjusted urban area boundary.
So moved.
You gotta at least give me a chance here, man, guys. Okay, so was that Mr. O'Hanlon? And then
Second, Lopez.
Lopez was second. We do have some questions, however, Alex, so please. I don't see anything else on the side, is that correct? Matter of fact, I see one question. Turn on your mic though.
I'm sorry. Thank you. I'm sorry, sir. I'm not gonna waste a lot of your time. But can you just talk to me more while I have you here, because you're a professional, about the process for the urban area boundary. Now I understand this is like some smooth, and this is defining the difference between where was it? Here it is, defined urban growth. Now you get how that come from the census, how you guys define urban growth?
Yeah, so the census takes place every 10 years, the 2020 census, and they use the raw information in a formula. And I think this is outlined in that first October 26 memo. But they use a nationwide formula, and they identify a density proxy or a threshold, and they use that to for every metropolitan area across the United States. They use that same Florida, whether you're in California, Wyoming, or here in Florida. So they use that approach to identify, designate an urbanized area. Federal law, knowing that, using one, pretty straightforward formula across the land probably is going to leave some gaps. Federal law allows this process, what we call the smoothing or adjusting process, to go in within reason and make those adjustments consistent with comprehensive plans.
Thank you. But so how does that impact areas such as like Harmony?
Harmony, I believe, is Harmony in the help me out. Is Harmony in the yellow?
Yeah.
Yes,
So
sir.
they are now within so once this becomes approved, everything yellow becomes blue. So we basically, the yellow, what you see on the map, are the areas that we're bringing into the boundary. But if it's an urbanized area, whether it's the Orlando urbanized area, the Four Corners, the Point Siena, the Claremont, it's all the same. They're designated as urban and they pursue those urban area funds. Prior to this, if that area was not, it wouldn't be eligible to be on any of our prioritized project lists. DOT would not be able to spend urban area funds on them. So it's really making those projects eligible to pursue funding.
Thank you.
Very good.
I understand.
As I recall, I think Harmony was actually in Osceola's urban growth boundary.
Correct.
From get-go. You thought I was gonna forget, we actually have to take a vote on this too.
Please.
We had a motion and a second.
I think we have one up.
Oh, you do? I'm sorry, I didn't see Ms. Mott. You do? Still, we'll go ahead and entertain the two, and then we'll cut it off from there and have the vote.
Thank
So
you,
Ms.
Mr.
Mott first.
Chairman. Quickly, Alex, under important things to note, I think it was probably, could you go back to the slide, please? I think it was possibly the third item you mentioned. Now, I heard all what you shared about something not being included doesn't make it, it doesn't impact the other aspect of the urban boundary. I'm confused. So can you tell me what you meant in that part?
Yes, sir. So again, this is a federal designation only
Okay.
for the US Census. Many of our local partners, every county either has what they call a rural settlement or an urban growth boundary where they're drawing a line for purposes of local land planning. This, just because if the federal designation becomes urban, it doesn't override or supersede a local government planning authority. So
Okay,
you can
pause
have
right there for
areas
me.
that are
Pause right there
designated
for me.
urban,
Mhm.
but in a local comprehensive plan, still identified within a rural settlement. There's
Okay.
rural settlements in Orange County, Gotha, there's rural settlement in the Geneva area of Seminole County. If the feds identified it as urban, I can't take it back, but we can be a lot more sensitive to those areas and not adding additional acreage around there. So again, this is just a federal designation. It doesn't impact our local government partners' comprehensive plans. So you don't have the counties don't have to go back in and change their comprehensive plan because of this designation.
Okay, I think I got it. And I asked for the pause just for me to process. So again, just for clarity. So the Fed designates it as urban, but it doesn't impact
It does not impact local government
Local
comprehensive plans. And local governments also have urban and rural service provisions,
That's what
for
I'm
trash,
thinking.
utility, other waste management, utility, other services that may have local financial impacts. This designation does not impact those by any means. No
Okay.
implication to that.
Well, thank you for sharing that. I'll go back and look at the video and try to process all that again. Thank you. That concludes my question, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Ms. Pizzo?
Thank you. Go back to your last slide, please. I appreciate we're on the same wavelength here. And I appreciate the fact that you have emphasized that this is a federal designation. My concern is there's a lot of sprawl. And I don't know what the local governments have designated these areas. But this is like a foothold for development. If you get federal designation, then that gives the developers more power to say to the local government, no, see, the feds recognize it, so we're going to build, build, build. And we know what's happening here in our area. We're losing a lot of our rural areas, especially I'm from Seminole County. I hate what's going on in Seminole County. I hate the loss of our rural natural growth. And this, I know you've got no control. I'm just making a statement here. I don't like this. So thank you for your time. Great presentation. That's all.
If I can, just for the record.
Yes, please,
Local
Alex.
governments, local plans are the de facto rule for developers. So, they may use it as a talking point, but at the end of the day, local commissioners, elected officials within comprehensive plans, land use and other local kind of land planning authority, it may be a talking point, but it doesn't give them any advantage to changing future land use or comprehensive plans. I just want to make sure everyone leaves with that clear understanding today.
Right.
Everything you see is consistent with local government's comprehensive plans and urban growth boundaries. So the decisions that you see here are already on your local government's books.
Great. Thank you very much. Give me 12 seconds here. I just lost my place here. We're on the urban boundary smoothing. I'm sorry, we've already, we've already got the motion on the floor. So we're just now at this point, we're going to take the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, at that point,
You have to do a roll.
we have to do a roll call because we did have one opposed. So Rachel, you had that up, correct?
I'm ready. Bobinger. Bolton. Bosley.
Aye.
Coleman. Council. Gus.
Aye.
Lopez.
Aye.
Mott.
Aye.
Niesman. O'Hanlon. Peters.
Aye.
Pigram.
Aye.
Pizzo.
Nay.
Salas.
Aye.
Stevens.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, we have 1 no and 13 yes.
Motion carries. Thank you very much, Rachel.
Thank you.
Okay, so that includes our action items. Now we've got 4 presentations left, and we've got 38 minutes. So ask all members and presenters to be mindful of time. Members, if you have a question for the presenters, stand your name card on in. I'll call on those questions at the end of each presentation. If we have to move along because of time, please forward any questions to Miss Mary Ann Horn. Let's go ahead now with the Florida Sunshine Law refresher. Our first presentation's annual refresher course from Florida Sunshine Law. Miss Lisa Smith, MetroPlan staff, share this information. Miss Smith, you have our attention.
Yes, good morning, and I apologize for my voice. It's a little weak this morning, but I don't know if I need to introduce myself because I think everybody already knows who I am. I am Lisa Smith, Senior Board Services Coordinator, and I'm here representing Board Services and Regional Partnerships. And it is my duty today to present our Government in the Sunshine refresher. So one of the organizational things that MetroPlan Orlando does every year at the first round of committee meetings is we provide our committee members with a refresher of the Florida Sunshine Law. So what the Sunshine Law is, it provides the public with the right of access to government proceedings, and it's applicable to both local and state governments. And for a meeting to be considered a public meeting, it has to meet 3 basic requirements. 1 is that the meeting must be open and accessible. And 2, we have to provide reasonable notice, so that by way of Rachel and myself posting the meetings here on our website and here in our lobby. And 3rd, we have to provide a record of the meeting, which it can be a recording, meeting minutes, highlights, and as Virginia always likes to point out, a paper napkin if it happens to be in some oddball location. So, and it has to be in a place where it is publicly accessible. So those are the 3 requirements, and they are in place to be sure that no backdoor meetings happen with regard to public decision-making. And what constitutes a public meeting is Florida statutes, chapter 286.011 defines what a public meeting is, and I don't think I need to go into a whole lot of detail with that. So the Sunshine Law applies not only to our MetroPlan Orlando board and the committees, our standard committees, it also applies to our special purpose task force and working groups that we have, which is it's our QATF, our quality assurance task force. We have the MTP working groups. We have our Vision Zero working group and our Vision Zero task force, I should say. So it covers all of those meetings as well. And what it pertains to is discussions between 2 or more members that are on the same committee and then talk about topics that could possibly come up at one of our meetings, and that's in a public meeting setting. And it covers various forms of communication, things that we are not allowed to do, which that means no talking in person, no phone conversations, no video chats, no emails, and please never hit the reply all button, no texting, no communicating on the various social media platforms. And we have to be mindful as technology advances that there are other forms of hybrid communications, i.e. our direct messaging and our chats, because those are also made a part of the public record. So just to be mindful of those things. And there are some exceptions. And these particular ones, they don't require that we post them, but we just encourage you to be mindful not to discuss things that could foreseeably come up at a Metro Plan Orlando meeting. And if you find yourself in violation, these are the sanctions that you could get hit with. And because we don't want that to happen, or any vote that you are involved in that could cause them to be nullified, and we don't want that to happen. So what we encourage you to do is whenever there's anything that needs to be posted, is that you don't hesitate to reach out to the ladies that are up there on that slide, and we will be more than happy to assist you with getting your meeting posted. And that's it, Dr. Stevens. That's all that I have for you today.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Ms. Smith. I appreciate that. I skipped your presentation on purpose because I felt it was important enough to where we got, garner the most members here to benefit from your presentation.
Thank you.
Any questions? I see Ms. Pizzo has something.
This is real quick, and I'm not sure it falls under this. Do HOAs also fall under that? HOA boards?
I don't think that they do. That would fall under where the slide would, yes, ma'am.
Wonderful. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate all your time.
Okay, thank you.
Have a nice day now. And let's see here, that's that. So I have a presentation from Ms. Taylor Laurent, Metro Plan Orlando, give some information on the 2050 Metropolitan Transportation Plan. Ready to hear your presentation, ma'am.
All right, good morning. Again, I'm Taylor Laurent. We heard more about the current 2045 Metropolitan Transportation Plan this morning. That's our living document and will continue to be the one that's adopted while we develop this new one, the 2050 Metropolitan Transportation Plan, which we're kicking off today. So just to get started, the MTP is our foundation for all of the projects that we have within our planning process and how they are eligible for federal funding as they move through all of our different work efforts. So the MTP starts as our long-term vision and identifies the needs and prioritizes project solutions to be able to address those needs. From there, those top priority projects are then shortlisted on our prioritized project list. And then as funding becomes available and those projects are ready to move forward, that's when they're programmed in our Transportation Improvement Program, the TIP. So as I've said, the MTP is our foundation, because if they are listed there, they're then eligible for federal funding throughout the rest of our planning process. That's the key to be able to make them eligible. So as we develop the MTP, there are several federal requirements that we need to keep in mind, some of which are here on the slide now, including the plan meeting a minimum of 20-year planning horizon. It needs to be updated every 5 years, which is why we're starting now, so we have enough time to get there. It needs to be fiscally constrained, as well as include data in our decision-making practices. There are several other planning emphasis areas because this plan is multimodal and multifaceted by design. So the planning areas shape our future of our transportation system. So for time purposes, I'm going to keep going, but if you do have questions, we can address those later. The overall tasks and activities that we're going to be performing begin with the identification of goals and objectives for our future development and growth within Central Florida. From there, we're going to evaluate how we use our existing transportation system and identify future trends to plan for as our region continues to grow. The latter half of the plan will include completing a needs assessment as we move forward into the future. Again, those multimodal, multifaceted assessments to ultimately develop a cost feasible plan of projects and strategies that will be adopted by the board at the completion of the work effort. Now, as we begin to develop the 2050 MTP, I would ask you to keep these 4 questions in mind, and they're rhetorical today. How do we want to continue growing as we look to 2050? What do we want our transportation system to look like? How will we fund our shared regional vision? And what steps must be taken to achieve that vision? So please keep these in mind as we develop our 2050 plan. So we're going to be answering each of these questions throughout the work that we're going to be performing. Now, those are very broad, open-ended questions, which means there's going to be a lot of discussion that we're going to have over the next 2 years. There will be lots of opportunities for that engagement and feedback, and there's going to be 4 primary channels to do that. The first are what we're doing right now, committee and board meetings. You'll be seeing me a lot up here at the podium over the next 2 years. These regular meetings will serve as opportunities to receive updates about the development of the 2050 MTP, which I'll give you the update on what we've done so far in a little bit. And these will also serve as our decision-making and consensus building forums for key milestones of the work. The second item are the MTP technical workshops that Ms. Lisa Smith mentioned in her prior presentation. That's where we're going to deep dive any of the topics where we need more than just 5-10 minutes that we would get on your regular agenda to be able to talk through all the details, see how the sausage is made, and then bring the recommendations back to the committees for that final consensus and moving forward with the project process. So if you're interested in getting into those details, please email Ms. Marianne Horn and she'll be able to add you to the list. From there, we will also be having interdisciplinary interviews with our non-traditional transportation stakeholders so we can bring in their feedback and perspectives directly into the plan, and then several public engagements events, which you'll hear more about as we get them up on the calendar. So then I hinted at this, work has already begun, but at each of your meetings moving forward, you'll receive a status report like the one that's currently in your agenda packet under tab 6, which includes the summary of work that's underway, which we've got a couple items up on the slide, which I'll leave you to peruse due to time today. You'll also see that that report includes the project schedule, so you can see where we are in the overall work effort, and then any upcoming events as they are scheduled on the calendar. As I said, we're just getting started, so we're right there at the beginning of the work, but we will be working towards the adoption of this plan in December of 2025. So with that, that's the overview of where we're going to be going with the 2050 MTP. Does anybody have any questions?
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Actually, I saw you first there, Mr. O'Hanlon, but let's go with Jeff first.
Thank you for this presentation. I'm very excited, always looking that far forward. I think that I was part of the subcommittee that when we did 2045. And one of the questions I think I brought up then was, because we have so many municipalities and jurisdictions that kind of have their own needs and their own plans and kind of looking forward, one of the questions I had was about major utility corridors. Like we have, I don't know, tens, hundreds of miles of high voltage corridors where there's no development underneath. And those could be part of trail programs or part of mass transit programs. And I kind of think in the last subcommittee said, could somebody put a map together of all these major utility corridors that are only being used for a single purpose that could be expanded for multi-use purpose? And I think we kind of kicked the can on that of, well, that's really driven by need, not by opportunity. So just wanted to kind of circle back that I'd still ask that at some point we look at that, just because I think we have all this valuable land that's only being used in one way. Second piece, and this is kind of tearing up for Mr. O'Hanlon, in the projections for the roadways that we have in the region, we can already forecast there are corridors that aren't going to need any additional expansion. So like I think of like Dr. Phillips Boulevard is a 6-7 mile corridor that's a rural treatment that even in 2045 says it doesn't need anything else. It's already 4 lanes. The area is developed. Is there a way that between Metro Plan and the municipalities, we can identify corridors like that 30 years from now, we don't have to do anything, but it's really a non-direct revenue generating corridor. So what else can we do with it? If we change the right of way, we could have special event space or turn it into a linear park. Like if there are corridors that we know aren't going to need many changes in 45 years, if the technology shows that people are using rideshare and automation, how can we generate revenue out of these corridors for the community that really don't need major investment? So those are the sorts of things that I think about with 2050.
Thank you. I would like to address your first comment about the utility corridors. That was included in the development of our active transportation plan. So there are a few recommendations in there for new trail opportunities for the publicly owned easements along those corridors. For the other improvements for technology, we are going to be having a workshop coming up in the next several months about future drivers of change that we need to include and plan for as we look to 2050 that don't exist yet, but are near up and coming items that'll either be, to use a metaphor that we've been hearing, what are the tides, ripples, and other options to kind of see what we need to plan for. So that will be coming up soon. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much. Mr. O'Hanlon, I think your last one, right?
In 2050 that have steering wheels, so no one will be allowed to drive, okay? Put that in the notes.
You remind me of that.
Sorry, you won't be allowed to drive it. Yeah, I'm trying to figure out where to start. I think I'll start with the status of full self-driving today. It's now improved to the point that my car can now drive out of my driveway into the street and take me where I want to go, okay? Version 12 of full self-driving, which basically is a complete AI driving system, has already been released. I'm hopeful to get it this weekend. So what is the subtle improvement on version 12? Well, right now my car takes me here, okay? And it says you've arrived, it leaves you in the street. Well, version 12 is going to pull over by the building to drop you off and park and pick up somebody else and continue driving, okay? I'm hoping to get that this weekend, not next week, not next month, not next year, not 10 years from now, okay? And we're doing 2050. You can't even imagine what 2050 is going to be like. People in this room can't even imagine what next week is going to be like. So why is that more important? Well, there's some people here, Metro Plan Orlando, don't think this is going to happen ever, okay? But it's going to. Elon is probably going to announce this afternoon at 5:30 that his $25,000 car that almost everyone can buy is going to be available mid next year. So everybody thinks, yep, this is only for the rich and everything else. No, it's not. By the middle of next year, it's going to be for almost everyone. We need a plan for all of these vehicles. Are going to be just picking people up and dropping them off. Okay. And at $25,000, okay, it's not going to take very many years. Okay. You're not going to be allowed to drive. Our vision is 0 fatalities, 0 accidents. Well, that's, believe it or not, on the horizon. It's actually going to happen, as amazing as it sounds.
And I actually have to cut you off, first of all, for time constraints, but second of all, we want to be careful what we say in this body. We want to be responsible with our comments. As I always charge my students, you back up your claims. I mean, I hear, and I know you've logged this comment a number of times, said, hey, that's the direction of technology. And I'll be honest, I'm excited about it, but I don't think that everybody's going to be driving cars and nobody's going to be taking transit. I would disagree with you on that. So we have to at least be open-minded in that regard. So anyway, but at least you did note your comments. And I think that's the point of your presentation. Is that correct? Like you're this jumping off point where you're starting to have all of these conversations. Is that correct, Ms.
Yeah,
Taylor?
so we're just getting started with the project. So these are the topics that we're going to be talking more about over the next 2 years. already had the concept of the self-driving cars as one of our scoping points and talking points. So thank you. I can confirm that that will be one of our discussions.
Yeah,
About
Mr.
the-
Chairman,
the-
I want to address what you just mentioned about transit. Transit is going to be reduced to a bunch of robo buses everywhere. Okay? All this, I've told you before, I will never vote for this dinosaur technology. The fact we're going to put in more trains, or we're going to put in all these express buses and the BART system and everything else. It's just not going to happen. No one's going to use it when these forms of transportation cost 1/10 or 1/100th of what it costs to
Tom,
get on a train.
That's wrong. That's wrong and that's irresponsible. I mean, I'm just, okay, and I got you. And as I said, and we can agree to disagree, but that's why this young lady is here, is to lead the charge as far as finding out these answers, over the course of this next year until the December board approval. Is that kind of where we're going with that, is to,
When we get to the discussion about the future trends that will be impacting us, we'll also be discussing the degrees of uncertainty for adoption. So we'll be, as a group, talking about kind of what are those tides that completely change everything? What are the waves that are more less impactful, and what are the ripples that are just kind of what we're seeing in smaller short-term time periods as we talk about a 25-year planning horizon. So that will be part of the discussion.
thank you. And just to be clear, I would like to, I mentioned this before this morning, that I would like to have some sessions where we actually have the ability, or without time constraints, where we can have those kind of conversations. Seems like you guys are already setting up that framework where we can come in and join the conversation. So, I'm with you on that. I'll join you. I'll be sitting right next to you, and let's talk her out. So.
And if there are any other questions, Marianne and I and the team are always available to kind of talk through anything with you that you need.
Great. And I think that actually was the last comment, correct? Thank you so much. I appreciate your expediency and your presentation there. So thank you so much. So we got that, the Vision Zero status update. We've got 19 minutes to hear from Mr. Mike Wilson, Metro Plan Orlando staff. Update us on the recent Vision Zero activities. And Mr. Wilson, if you're ready, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I will
Yeah.
strive to be far more brief than that. So two key things that we've been focusing on in the past month. Our engineering countermeasures toolkit, it has been wrapped up. Where our engineering, our countermeasures generally, we're split it up into two. One is the engineering, the built environment, but then there's also countermeasures that are behavioral and technological in nature, and that will be under a separate document. But we've put this guide together to help the local governments to sort of narrow down, because there's nearly 120 countermeasures in this book, but not all of them are going to apply in various contexts, right? So you have to know, what is your problem? What's the context? What's your cost? What's your time frame? All of those things, and that can help you to narrow down to focus on what countermeasures you want to see. So here you can see the the various types, categories of countermeasures. Traffic signals, the usual stuff, the signals and striping, and of course bikeways and pedestrian facilities, and speed management being a very, very important component. The sources for these they come from the Crash Modification Factors Clearinghouse from the Federal Highway Administration, which is a huge data source for hard data on what the different countermeasures will achieve. The NCHRP, National, blanking on what the acronym is, but it's on another clearinghouse on technical information. And then there's a bicycle and pedestrian information center as well. A key component of this is what's the applicability of the countermeasures. Are they suited better for urban, suburban, or rural? Breaking it down by costs, what we call what's categorized as low is typically under $10,000, medium under 100,000, and then high, above that. And then what's the time frame? Quick build would be something, under a year. Short term, 1 to 3 years. Medium, now we're talking about, things like, right of way and significant planning and design. And similarly with long-term, really major projects. So this is a sample of what the kind of the cards that you see in the countermeasure guide of one example of, so you have a title at the top, whether or not it's a quote, proven safety countermeasure according to federal highway, a general description, what modes it serves, again, how long it takes to implement and cost, and then what types of crashes does it address, and what part of the safe system approach is it, and then other general considerations to take in mind. And as I said, we'll be moving into non-infrastructure, looking at what are the key behavioral changes we want to see to improve our safety, and then what are the methods for getting those behavioral changes accomplished, whether that's just general messaging, more targeted education, training, and enforcement. Other things that will just help to improve the whole system, better data collection, road maintenance. It is infrastructure, but it's not really changing it. It's just keeping things in good working order. Post-crash care is a big part of it. Can we get people to the scene faster, and then get those emergency vehicles to the hospital faster, so that that serious injury doesn't become a fatality? And then hopefully in the future, looking at things like automated enforcement, and then just, more mundane things like vehicle maintenance. So moving on to the public engagement component, making progress there as well. Our consultant teams have been out in the field for their various local government plans, meeting with the public. You can see here that in November and December, there were 5 events that were put on, reaching over 300 participants. These things are just getting started. So now we have at least 4 events planned for January. More are coming on to the calendar, and at least 5 for February as well. We had a very successful media briefing on December 13th, so right after our board meeting. We had Metroplan board meetings, FDOT, and Metroplan staff in attendance and presenting to the media. We had excellent participation. We had 5 English language and 1 Spanish language outlet. We had more than 25 minutes of airtime just from that event, and then we've had additional inquiries and coverage since then. Also on the public engagement front, I showed you that that public input map that we now have on the hub site. So up to now, we've had 174 contributions through the Vision Zero efforts, but we also brought in some comments that were from our active transportation plan that were relevant to safety. So those have been put in there as well. We're looking for more participation from Osceola and Seminole. We've got kind of a lion's share in Orange County, so get the word out in the North and South counties. Another thing, be hitting the presses soon as Marianne's team gets the finishing touches, is a Vision Zero children's book. And so this will be available both at print and download. And so it's an activity guide to teach the younger kids what the key things they need to pay attention to when it comes to safety. And the next steps, a really big thing coming up at the end of this month, the FDOT District 5 Strategic Safety Plan. So we'll be having a workshop with committee members, board members, staff, other community members, just a facilitated discussion to talk about how we advance the cause of safety throughout the region. And then once again, our project schedule, just to kind of bring that back up again, to show you that we're looking at the policy review component right now. How do we change the Metroplan policies to better pursue Vision Zero goals, and continue to work on the countermeasures, and very soon start to look at the prioritization process. What does that mean for projects that move into the prioritized list and to the TIP in coming years. So that concludes my presentation, and I'd be happy to take any questions.
Thank you so much, Mr. Wilson. And I see three. I'll start all the questions on this side today. Ms. Council, why don't you lead us off?
Hi, Mike. How do I get you to come out to some of the events throughout Osceola County? There are several events for Boo on Broadway and a number of 5K. They would love to see this out there in Osceola. So who do I speak to and giving
Okay.
them a calendar?
So
Adriana?
we'll have our I can send you the contact for the consultant.
Perfect.
You know, Jim Wood was actually here earlier, but yeah, it's the consultant teams that are handling those meetings. So I'll get that with you.
That would be,
Yeah.
that would be awesome, because then we can share the information with the. Sounds great.
Yeah, we can
They're
get it
always
to everybody.
they're always
then,
looking
right?
for venues to present to you.
Thank you.
Mr. Pegram?
Mike, could you pull up the map of where the responses came from for the public feedback real quick? Because I thought it was interesting. There's a lot of density in responses in West Orange County, kind of that, anecdotally, it looks like between Colonial, 535 and Apopka Vineland, there's a lot of density in responses there. Can you attribute that to what worked well in that area, and why was there specific projects that you partnered with, or like what was so successful in that area compared to the other areas?
I would have to ask our consultant teams to give some insight into that, because I haven't had a chance to delve into the underlying data on that.
Find out what's working, right? So good. And Mr. O'Hanlon, why don't you wrap this up, sir?
I loved your visual showing people with earbuds and phones. There are, and I'll stand by my comments, there are idiots with earbuds in, they're looking at their phone, and they're going across a crosswalk because it says that they can walk on the other side. Those are the people who are going to get run over, because there's still a lot of you out there that still drive your car, and you might not notice that guy and hit him.
There we go. Actually, I was mistaken. There's actually two more comments on this side. Miss Gus?
Sorry for my late add-in. They were at the farmer's market, so I was really excited to see them there. What I did want to ask was this about the same chart. You said that there's a line, I forgot exactly how you said, a vision line or communication. So that's why there's such an impact, or there's so many comments being made in those sectors. How do we get that information out there for people to add the information, like for Osceola County, for example?
Yeah, well, you can simply share the link, and you can go to
Is
the
that
hub
link-
site, vision0cfl.gov. And then there's a tab at the top. It says, you know, where you can contribute information. Just send people that link. You can put it out through social media and however you want to do that.
Is there a print flyer? That way I can put it in any kind of community boards?
You could, yeah, you could do that
I'll
as
just
well.
create
Yeah,
one.
right.
You know, Mary Ann, at this point, we've heard a couple requests so far. Can you just broadcast this out to the committee,
I
and then
have
that way
a star by it, which means I'm gonna try to email. it
links,
to-
flyers, contacts, and you name it. So
But the Vision Zero hub site is always there and all the stuff for Vision Zero.
And perhaps a print flyer with a QR code would make it that much simpler, because you can do it from your phone. So you could immediately jump to it.
Ms. Mott, real quick, because we got 5 minutes, so we've got one more presenter back there.
Thank you,
Be
Mr.
warming
Chair.
up, Slade.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Quickly, Mike, you mentioned that there's a kids version for a download and something else. You mentioned?
It's not yet, but it's, I just gave you a kind of a teaser on that, but we'll let you know as soon as it's available.
Well,
We will let you know. It went back to the artist for a couple of changes,
Okay.
and we are very close.
Okay. Very excited to see that. Keep up the great work. I'm always in support of everything with this Vision Zero. I love it, love it. Keep up the great work. Thank you. That concludes my question, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you so much, Mike. We appreciate your time, sir. And let's wrap this up with a former student of mine, Mr. Slade Downs, MetroPlan Orlando staff. Tell us about the revamped Tracking the Trends program on the MetroPlan website. So there you have 4 minutes. Not too much pressure, sorry.
I'll go quick. Good morning, everyone. Slade Downs. I'm a planner here at MetroPlan Orlando. Here to give you an overview of changes we've made to our Tracking the Trends program. Tracking the Trends is a program that's designed to track historic data in transportation and identify trends. Like other MPOs, the metrics we choose to track are aligned with federal performance measures, but we go a bit further than the federally required performance metrics to track just about every quality of life statistic that touches transportation. The Tracking the Trends website has been revamped to be more accessible and digestible by the public. It's been streamlined to show sort of a profile of our metro area, as well as selected highlights in transportation trends. Please go check it out, metroplanorlando.gov/trends. And for anyone that wants to take a deeper dive past the highlights into more granular data, a data clearinghouse is being created to make information more accessible to the public as well as our partners. So on that note, wanted to give you a few other heads up about components of the program that are in process. The system performance report specifically houses and focuses on those federal performance measures I just mentioned. This dashboard features metrics and interactive maps to visualize how those different performance measures vary around our region. The technical granular data related to federal measures are interspersed with text and graphics to make the information more digestible to the average person. So it's not just a wall of numbers and tables, it is explanation and context as well. For example, here we've got our federal reliability measures in that table, as well as an explanation of what roadway reliability means to you. And the last update to Tracking the Trends is our new accessibility hub. This will allow municipal partners and citizens alike to see how accessible their neighborhoods, jobs, and cities are within the context of the region. Accessibility maps are available to many different points of interest listed up there on the slide, as well as overall accessibility scores as an aggregate of those points of interest combined. Safety, of course, is an important component of all of our efforts, as Mike just finished telling you about. And part of that integration here is that each of these interactive maps has safety context incorporated. Bicycle and pedestrian crashes are contextualized against these points of interest to show the relationship between accessibility and safety. Knowing how accessible an area is helps us identify gaps in accessibility and identify areas where we could improve. Helps us identify things like transit deserts, food deserts, and other gaps. And I told you I'd be quick. That's it for me. Be happy to take any questions. And one more plug, that's metroplanorlando.gov/trends.
Great. Thank you so much. I appreciate your Ms. Mott, oh, okay, got it. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time, sir. Yeah, great
right.
presentation. Very much.
Thank you.
Actually, at this time, I'm going to suspend comments for committee members. Is that permissible, or what's the remedy for that?
You're the chair.
Are you the only one?
No, there's three.
Okay, got it. Before riot here, so go ahead, Ms. Mott.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Quickly, at the conclusion of Ms. Lisa's presentation on the Sunshine State Law presentation, I had requested a copy of that presentation, and she agreed. However, I thought about it. It would be great benefit to the entire committee. So my request is to email that to my colleagues as well, please. That concludes my question, Mr. Chairman.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there, Ms. Pizzo.
I will try to be quick as well. Two statements. We playfully tease Mr. O'Hanlon about his self-driving, intelligent, wonderful car that is just short of flying. I know it is. Going back to his statement, though, about the future of transportation, where you will have cars that will drop you off at the sidewalk and shove you out and then go off to find somebody else. Back in the day, when I was a transportation planner for the DOT, and I was online trying to find that presentation, apparently the records only go back to 2019. So this was about 8-9 years ago. There was a presentation just on that, where we were going to be doing away with surface parking because you're not going to need it, because you're going to have those little buses or your only private car or whatever that will drive you to work, drive you to the store, drive you wherever, throw you out and go back home until it's time to come back and get you. Or those little buses, the whatever you called them, robo buses that will come around and cycle around. You're not going to need a car, and it is sooner than later. So this is something to consider. I'm sure there's probably, if you Google it, there's probably information out there what the timeline is. The last question or statement, maybe it is a question, and perhaps I misunderstood, and I know your job, Chairman, is to keep us moving so we don't go past our time frame. But you had made a statement and it really rubbed me, where we're an advisory committee and maybe our comments don't matter or something along that line.
No.
Our comments do matter. It matters when I am up there listening to somebody talking and I say to you, Chairman, please forward my comment to Metroplan Board because it's important. What we have to say here, we're people that have decided to take our personal time and sit here for a couple hours, hear some great presentations and provide our feedback either based on experience or personal observations. It is important what we do here. I know from my past standing there at the podium giving presentations, what I heard from the CAC, from the Transportation Disadvantage and from Metroplan and all the other throughout the 7 counties, I believe DOT has. I've been away for a while. It did matter what I heard and it did make a difference. So please build us up, encourage the comments. And I know we have time constraints and I'm sorry, I've probably exceeded mine. So thank you.
No, and Mr. Pigram, before you jump in there, don't get me wrong. First of all, I will put up a good fight. I'm with you on that. I do believe that our comments matter. My point, maybe I just was, I misspoke, but my point was that the board's going to go forward with or without our comments. And so if we can hurry up and hear all of our presenters, so that way we give them the opportunity to present that information to us. And I think we did a great job. I mean, given how full our agenda was. So I don't want you to think that that was low on my priority list or that your comments are not important, because they are important. And I certainly will take your comments forward to the board. So as I had done in years past. Secondly, don't get me wrong on my comments to Mr. O'Hanlon about technology was not that we're not headed that direction. We are, everybody can kind of see that. And we are considering that. It's just that don't write off any other existing technology. The dinosaur comments and things like that. We still have people like me that don't have a Tesla and that do take that dinosaur technology and plan to for years to come. So that was the spirit that I meant that. So anyway, but thank you very much. I do appreciate your comment, Judy. We have one more comment, and then we do have one important thing, which is public comments on our action items. So if you want to.
Sure. No, just real quick. I'm sorry to see him leave, but I think part of our opinions are what we're exposed to. And so, yeah, 30-mile-an-hour, 50-mile-an-hour trains are certainly dinosaur technology. 220-mile-an-hour high speed is not dinosaur technology. There's a reason China's building thousands and thousands of miles for it, because the highest posted speed limit in the US for vehicles is 85. and you have planes that go 400. High-speed rail kind of fills that niche in between in terms of travel times and options. So yes, there's certain things that we need to look beyond, but completely absolving yourself of what technology we can build upon in this region, I think is a different conversation. Now, my intended comment was thank you to the Metro Plan for the certificate for last year's attendance. I apologize, I did not RSVP for this meeting ahead of time. My wife and I welcomed our second child 12 days ago.
Wow, very good.
So life is a little bit unpredictable. So I should have probably set a note saying, I don't know how she's going to wake up. So this is our second girl. So we have a 3-year-old or almost 3-year-old and a newborn at home. So my life is dictated by them more than it is anything else. So just thank you for your patience with that, and glad I could be here. Girl born on the 12th, 7 pounds, 3 ounces.
Wonderful. Congratulations. How wonderful. We have come to our second public comment period. Any members of the public wishing to comment, you're joining us virtually. Use the raised hand function to be recognized, or dial *9 on your phone keypad. Send you a prompt to unmute your mic. Afterwards, after you're recognized, state your name and address for the record and limit your comment to 2 minutes. Do we have anybody joining us virtually, Lisa?
Mr. Chair, we do not have any hands raised on the virtual side.
Okay, Rachel, do we have any members of the public attending in person want to make a public comment?
We have received no comments.
Good, because we're way out of time, but no, you're right. I welcome even all the public comments. So anyway, at this time, no further business. Our meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.